So, what actually is investment?
Investment is putting resource into something one day with the aim of getting back more than what you initially invested in the future.
My definition of investment is allocating money to companies that we believe are going to look after that money over the long term. We mainly look after money for pension funds, charities and foundations, and we have a responsibility to look after their money and hopefully grow that amount of money that they've entrusted us with.
Investment is supporting people, families and businesses to thrive through growing their assets in a sustainable and safe way.
My goodness, it's a really wide topic, and people invest for various purposes. It could be for their pension plan, it could be as general as a savings pot, and perhaps it's to help with their kids in the future, university fees for example. But in the case of charities, it's often to generate some income, to pay for staff in their charity, or even to give out grants for good causes. But at the heart of it all really is the aim to have your pot of money worth more in the future than what it is today. And one way to do that is buy shares. I'm sure you've all heard of the stock market, but that's not the only way. You could be buying property, for example, or more unusual things like classic cars and fine wine. Anything which you can buy and so has a value, and something which you expect to rise in value as time goes on.
You're taking a chance on buying something in the hope and expectation that it will increase in value. If you think about it like investing in an antique vase, you buy it for say £100 and the hope is that in 2 years' time you turn up at the Antiques Roadshow and they tell you that it's worth £10,000. So what we essentially do in asset management is, before buying the vase, we try to work out, using sort of experience and knowledge and various bits of data, whether that vase will actually increase in value. And if we think it will, we buy it. And we buy it on behalf of other people, investors, clients, which can be companies or individuals who give us our money to buy it and to try and make them some more money.
So, why is investment and working in investment a good thing?
Investment is a really important part of finance. For individuals, it allows them to grow their savings for futures. But for companies, it allows them to find investors who can give them money to grow and reinvest in their own businesses.
I always use the analogy of inflation and a Freddo. So if we think back to when I was younger, a Freddo was 10 pence. Now, I'm pretty sure a Freddo isn't 10 pence anymore, and that's the effect of inflation. So price rises, and if you were to do the same thing with your money and put it under the mattress, inflation would eat into the value of that money. So we have to invest to stop inflation having that effect on your money, and making sure that your money grows and helps you to achieve your goals for the future.
Working in investment is a good thing for so many reasons. You have the chance to make a real difference to people's financial position. I feel so fortunate for that. I feel lucky to be learning about how the financial system works. I think it's one of the most closed off industries probably. And if you'd asked 15-year-old me to explain pensions or valuations or share prices, I just wouldn't have had a clue, and I don't think I still would without this job. I also earn a really good salary. I realised how important financial independence is, especially as I was on free school meals throughout school. I'm now able to pay off debts, I'm able to help my family, and I'm even buying a flat.
Working in investment management is great because it is a really intellectually stimulating industry to work in because you're constantly learning. Working in investment management is also important to me because, rightly or wrongly, we live in a world where money talks. And I'm a bit too junior for it now, but if I get promoted to investment manager in future, I would love the idea of being able to directly impact and support businesses that are doing great things for society. So I'd be able to say, okay, well, hello management, you're making this product or you're offering this service, it's having this real impact on society, you need some financial support to grow, here you are, off you go.
You must have heard of 3 magic letters, ESG, environmental, social, governance. By owning one tiny share of the company, that will not make a difference. But what you can do, if you work together and collaborate with other investors, and in that way you are able to represent, say, 50% of the ownership of the company, or not necessarily 50%, but a meaningful, then you can go to that company and ask them to make changes. So for example, you can ask them to have more women on board. You can demand them to make sure that they think of climate in the policies that they operate. So you are able to make an impact to the environment and social areas that you are living in. So by investing and by owning those companies, you're able to make a difference.
Everybody needs investment. I think a lot of people think that they don't have investments, but they do. Most people have a pension, and a pension is an investment. Those are the sort of clients that we are looking after. And hopefully, if we're doing a good job, we can ensure that people have a comfortable retirement, be it 10, 20 or 50 years away.
What are some of the stereotypes and myths about investment, and are any of them actually based on the truth?
Some of the stereotypes about investments is that it's only for the wealthy. However, millions of retail customers invest in things such as private pensions and ISAs to grow their savings for the future.
A stereotype which very much impacted my view of investment to begin with was that you had to have studied economics or maths, something STEM related at school. And while many people in the financial services industry have, it's not completely necessary.
But an asset manager, an investment business, is like any other business, any other company, in that it needs people who work in marketing, it needs people who work in HR, people to look after websites, people who design things, and lawyers. So it's not necessarily the case that every single one of those roles needs to have that mathematical brain and background.
Some of the stereotypes of investments would be that it is very male dominated, that we all wear suits, and that we are a little bit irresponsible with other people's money, that we see it as gambling. I don't believe it's true that we are gambling with people's money. We take our responsibility very seriously. We only invest in a handful of companies that we feel are good enough to receive this money. And sometimes we spend years researching these companies before we get comfortable allocating cash to them.
Some stereotypes of investment are that it's full of men in grey suits who carry a newspaper under their arm and shout about the market in very tall glass buildings, and they don't know what's going on in the real world. I can say that isn't the case.
I have to admit that before joining my first job as an investment analyst, I was imagining that it's going to be an incredibly fast-paced, really backstabbing, cutting throat kind of environment when everyone is fighting for themselves and you can't trust anyone. You can see I watched a lot of Hollywood films, and this could not be further out from truth. People are incredibly friendly and very, very supportive, and you understand that working environment. You have many years in the career, and this is very, very important to have a friendly environment. And this is one of the things that I really enjoy about my work, is the amazing industry and how supportive it is.